Defamation. I love defamation because I've brought some defamation claims myself. Sometimes you have to, you know. But defamation is really simple. It's slander and it's libel. Slander is defamation, which is oral. Libel is defamation, which is written. It's that simple. If you get defamed by a newspaper, that's libel. If you get defamed by your neighbor, that is slander. I want to point out a few things to you because we get a lot of phone calls about this from people that are mad at someone. Defamation has to be something that is derogatory about your character. It can't be, and I like to use this example. If somebody out there is saying that Eric Deters is a lousy lawyer, I can't sue over that, okay? That's protected. That's a general statement. And also, you're allowed to have your opinions. Opinions aren't libel and slander. The difference is if you say something very specific. For example, if somebody said, Eric Deters steals the trust money out of his trust account of his clients. You know, if a client accused me and said, Eric Deters stole $10,000 of my money, that's very specific, and that's defamation. So it has to be something very specific. It can't be something that is just general. It can't be an opinion. It has to be something very specific that goes to a person's character. There are some great things that apply to women over men. We protect women. If you say anything derogatory about a woman's chastity, which is untrue, like let's say a woman has a great reputation and you say that she held an orgy at her house. Well, those are what we call defamatory per se, which means per se you're entitled to damages. You don't even have to prove the liability portion of it. There's other examples of that. You attack somebody's business. In other words, it has to do with their work. There's other examples of that. The problem with defamation claims, more than anything else, is the ability to collect on them. If your neighbor is slandering and libeling you, are you going to be able to really collect? However, I want to say this. Homeowners insurance policies used to cover them. They might have exclusions in them by now. It's been a while since I had one where I was tangling with a homeowner policy, but sometimes homeowners will cover defamation and slander. I had a claim that I settled for a small amount of money where a neighbor actually told a woman's 10-year-old son that her mother was a bar-hopping whore. Can you imagine telling a 10-year-old that? I mean, it was terrible. The lawyer on the other side said, oh, come on, it's no big deal. I thought it was a pretty big deal. It wasn't true, by the way, either. Truth is a defense. Okay? If you say something or somebody says something defamatory about you that's terrible and it's true, you can't sue. Another example, if you're a public figure, I'm a public figure. There's good and bad about being a public figure. I get a lot of legal business because people know who I am. But the bad thing about it is you're open season. You can't sue. It's called I think it's called the Time-Sullivan case. You can't, or Sullivan-Times case, you can't sue for defamation if you're a public figure unless you can prove malice. Now, I actually have myself a claim pending against somebody who I think I can prove malice. But you have to be able to prove malice. The standard normally is just negligence. Let me tell you another thing. I keep thinking of these great thoughts that might apply to your situation. Repeating defamation, slander, or libel is libel or slander. You don't get to say to somebody something defamatory about somebody and say, well, I just heard that from so-and-so. If you repeat it, that's a slander that's on you. Bottom line is, if you think you have a defamation or slander or libel claim, give us a call and we'll help you through it. One little tip that I've done successfully is send a letter to somebody just saying, hey, we know you've said this and you've done it. If you do it again, we're going to sue you. Most people don't want to get sued, and a letter sometimes will make them shut up. In fact, that's my advice when you have somebody in your community running their mouth against you. It won't cost you a lot of money, just a few bucks. We'll send them a letter, and it's pretty effective to shut them up because they don't want to be sued. Thank you.